me being controlling is ruining my relationship. So it's a question I got from a client. Well, that's more of a statement, right? But what they were saying was my control, my excessive control is essentially a sticking point in our relationship. And so we started to unpack that. We first looked at the shadow masculine, the hyper masculine of control. Then we looked at the shadow feminine aspects of how control shows up in more of a hypo state, like the manipulation that sometimes comes up. How we manipulate, how we control, how we oppress, how we force, how we're sneaky, how we hide. But what we really looked at was what's underneath the control. Because there's a fear there, right? There's a reason why we want to be in control. There's a tension, there's a contraction that takes place. There's this often accompanying need to get it right, to have everything in order, this compulsiveness to have everything in order. So when we peel that back, I ask you, if you have that, or if you've experienced that, what did you experience growing up? What did your little boy or girl experience? Did they need to be in control to feel safe? Did they observe their parents being in control, consistently needing to be in control? Did you grow up in a lot of fear? Did you grow up being told that you're wrong or only celebrated when you got it right? Like, what's your relationship with control? And often they go hand in hand, and specifically in this relationship or in this dynamic, this young man being in control helped him feel more superior. It helped him impress upon his father, who he was attempting to impress unconsciously and probably consciously, to seek his validation, his approval, his need for love. It helped him feel superior. And here's another thing. When we're in control and we feel superior, we feel elevated, there's no real space. We don't allow space for feelings of shame, guilt, sadness, not enoughness, unworthiness, because we're on top. We're on top, right? We're elevated. We're better than. I'm in control. I'm telling you how to do this because my way is the best way. And there's no space for any other way. Therefore, there's no space for criticism. There's no space for judgment. My discernment is what matters and nothing else does. In superiority, shame is minimized. Superiority and control go hand in hand. There's an incentive to remain in that place and have people below you. And the incentive is to not feel very, very heavy sensations of shame or guilt or deep sadness or feelings of unworthiness. Working with that inner child, working with that little boy or girl, sending them love, checking in with them regularly, letting them know that they are enough, taking actions that help support them, asking questions that support you. This childhood conditioning that we experience, it plays a role in our adult lives in such subtle ways that have profound impacts in our adult relationships, the relationships that really matter most to us. And so the opportunity that we have is to grow through that, to move through that. To not be disempowered by our past, but to really figure out, to go what's underneath the pain that we're experiencing, the need to control, the need to feel superior, the need to be right, the need to have things done in a particular way. You know, if you grew up in a lot of terror or disorganization or messiness in different ways, whether it's your physical environment that was messy or your emotional relationships that were messy, as an adult, you may go one of two ways in extremes. You may continue to play out that messiness massively, and that just becomes your norm because it's so familiar. Or you're in such rejection of that messiness, that volatility, that uncertainty, that everything needs to be in order. Everything needs to be in the right place, in control. And remember, when you're in that place, you're in a place of higher knowledge. You know it all. No one can tell you differently. You're protecting the fragility of your heart. You're projecting the fragility of your ego. Because being wrong has been dangerous in the past. Either it's been physically impactful, you made the wrong decision to walk into your mum and dad fighting and then your dad took it out on you, as an example. You made the wrong decision when you turned the corner at school and the bullies got you. or it's just been dangerous. It's been painful for you. And being wrong hasn't served you. Maybe at school you got a few answers wrong on the test, you brought it home and your parents were disgruntled with you, or your teacher didn't really embrace you, didn't nurture that process for you, or you were teased by kids. Either way, they're usually old patterns playing out that allow us to be in these states of control, excessive control, and the need to be right. So there's things that are underneath the fear, right, that are playing out. And so in partnership, and even in friendship, if you're aware of this, you can make requests and form agreements in your relationships, your friendships, your platonic friendships, or your intimate partnerships, or your familial dynamics, if there's a healthy connection and understanding there, right? That can be very triggering and activating for people emotionally. It can bring up a lot of the past if it's unresolved, if you have unresolved tensions and relational dynamics. You're going to be very mindful of that. But you can put agreements in place and share this information with your partner and say, hey, I know it seems like I want to control you, and I actually don't. I'm just scared. So vulnerability plays a massive role here. Vulnerability plays a big role. When you share openly and vulnerably from a place of raw truth, I know it can come with cost and risk, rejection, humiliation, abandonment. They pull away because your vulnerability is too much. And you've got to read the room on that. You've got to gauge that. You've got to cultivate enough self-confidence and worthiness in yourself. Do your inner work to know that if they reject you, they're not really rejecting you. They're rejecting that notion because it's threatening to them. But you can make these agreements and have these requests and say, hey, I promise that if I see you doing something that I think I need to control, or you're not doing it right in my mind, I'm going to do my best to notice that within me and have awareness. And instead of project that on you, I'm going to, in those moments, say, hey, my little boy, my little girl is activated right now, and I'm feeling all disorientated because I'm seeing you do this thing, but I don't want to blame you. I just want to let you know what's going on for me. And I'm going to breathe through this, and I am breathing through it. I'm already feeling calmer, and we're diffusing shame by bringing it into the light, and we're getting real with what we are. And when our partners meet us with compassion and an endearing sense of self and non-judgment and love, guess what happens? We start to heal those old wounds, because when we were younger, we weren't met with that. We weren't met with love and compassion and non-judgment. We were met with a harshness and a rigidity. And in our partnership, we get to rewrite those stories. We get to have that redo that heals that part of us, that then doesn't keep projecting and being reactive unconsciously and consciously, which then doesn't trigger our partners. And now they're healing too. We're healing together because we're being honest. But we need to create safe foundations. We have to be surrounded by people that we trust, respect, and revere. So my recommendation is don't be with a partner that you don't trust, respect, and revere. Then there's something about control. Where do you control excessively in your life? Either how people see you, how you do things, how you navigate your environment, how you navigate conflict. Look to the challenge and the conflict in your life. They're usually big indicators because they're quite extreme and they feel unsafe to us. So that's where our reactive nature comes out, as the sun just came out. Be in that place. Be responsible for your healing, because you can be. Power and blessings to you.